subscribe and enjoy the show. The Latino Conservative Podcast. Listen and share with all of your friends. And subscribe to my eyes. The Latino Conservative Podcast. The Latino Conservative.
Hello, everybody. Thank you for joining me on this episode of the Latino Conservative. We're going to try this again and working on the audio that's been plaguing me. So while y'all are waiting there, what I'm doing here is I'm waiting on my phone. See? Just making sure that it works, but we have a lot to talk about today. Here we go. Let's see. Okay, so yeah, that seems to be working now. We're going to get on and moving. First, what I'd like to do is to talk about a sponsored product. You'll find both of these products that I talk about anytime in the description below. The first one I want to talk about is these alpha pouches, alpha nootropic pouches. I put a link to the Amazon product in my description because they are a product that I absolutely believe in, absolutely use quite a bit. They're a product that I absolutely use quite a bit, and I mean, they taste great. They've got all of the good stuff, none of the bad. They're nootropic, but this Alpha Fuel is one that it actually has some caffeine in it too, and it kind of gets you going. It gives you the energy to do what you need to do. It's kind of like a pre-workout in a way, and just gives you a lot of energy. I use this. In fact, here's the can that I had before.
Bluetooth connected.
It's empty. Yeah, that was me connecting the Bluetooth because that's how I'm going to start sharing some audio with y'all. But this is the one. This one's actually an apple mint flavor. What it is you put these little pouches between your gum and your lip or in your cheek or whatever. You don't eat them. Don't do that. I've seen people do that. These aren't Tide Pods. But they give you a good blast of energy, help you stay focused, and they are nootropics, so they are good for the mind. Get these in the Amazon link below. So we're going to get started off, and I'm going to be doing things a little bit different because if you haven't seen, and I know you haven't heard because I've had some audio issues the last couple times I tried to do this, but you see me with my phone up really close. That is because since the last time I was actively on here, I have become visually impaired. What that means is basically while I was campaigning against Al Green. I really wanted to make sure that he didn't serve another term in office. He's just done. He is probably one of the worst politicians out there. He is not representing the people of Houston as he should. But he just seems to get elected and elected over and over and over and over again. We don't know why, but I was running against him. And while I was running against Al Green, I got sick and ended up spending 8 weeks in the hospital. After that, just things went downhill, really went downhill quite a bit. I almost didn't make it out of the hospital that time. I'm just going to be honest with y'all. I almost didn't make it out of the hospital. So I withdrew from that race. And during that time I was in the hospital, I went blind. Well, legally blind, I should say. I can't see. My vision in my right eye is 20/400. You know, people normally have 20/20, but I'm 2400. My left eye is no longer working at all. The pupil doesn't dilate at all. And it's just been kind of a tough time readapting, learning how to do things. I can't do my full-time job anymore, which those of y'all who know me know that I love my full-time job, which was in the car business. I was training car dealerships and I was doing marketing for car dealerships, but I can't do that anymore. I just can't do it justice. So I had to, basically I'm on medical retirement is the way I like to look at it. So I've had to learn how to do a few things differently since then. And what you also heard me do, and that was kind of kill time, basically. so I can get to the story here. The stories that we're going to talk about. We're going to talk about what's going on in California. Everybody that knows, that has any sort of knowledge of what's going on in the country knows that there's some riots going on. Some riots going on in LA. There's Israel has, some stories that I'm talking about. Israel was attacked overnight, well, over our night during the day. And then there was also the riots going on in LA. They've been brought to San Antonio, my home state. I live in Victoria, Texas, but San Antonio is about 2 hours away from us. So what I'm doing now, kind of how I'm going to be formatting this, just so y'all know, is I'm going to be talking a little bit. We're going to put the story up on the screen, and then from there, I'll play some audio because I can't really see what's going on the screen. I use a lot of screen readers and text magnifiers and all that good stuff. So just kind of look at what's going on with the way I do things now. Let me share my screen. This is what it'll look like. Then I got to struggle to find the mouse. So y'all can't see it zooming in, but for me, it zooms in a lot. I've used a Mac, so I scroll on the wheel on the mouse, and it zooms in. That's the only way I can read this. So the first story we're going to talk about is what's going on in Israel. What's going on in Iran. So let me play some audio for you.
Is two bitter Middle East adversaries. It appeared Israel attacked Iran early Friday in strikes that took out top military officers and hit nuclear and missile sites, raising the potential for an all-out war between the two bitter Middle East adversaries. It appeared to be the most significant attack Iran has faced since its 1980s war with Iraq. Simmering tensions over Iran's rapidly advancing nuclear program boiled over, and Iran quickly retaliated, sending a swarm of drones at Israel as Supreme Leader Ayatollah Ali Khamenei warned of severe punishment. Countries in the region condemned Israel's attack, while leaders around the globe called for immediate de-escalation from both sides. Israel's military said about 200 aircraft were involved in the initial attack on about 100 targets. Two security officials said the country's Mossad spy agency was also able to position explosive drones inside Iran ahead of time, and then
Okay, so basically what's going on overnight while everybody was sleeping, Israel did a preemptive strike against Iran. Iran. That preemptive strike was to quote unquote deter the development of nuclear grade uranium. That was on the 60th day. Trump went over there and said basically to Iran, hey, you've got 60 days to comply. If you don't comply within 60 days, we don't know what's going to go on, because Iran and the U.S. have been in nuclear talks for some time now. And, Donald Trump doesn't BS. He says he's going to do something, he does something. I believe that he's given them ample time to respond, to denuclearize or to stop enriching. Now, these places that that were stricken were nuclear enrichment facilities. And I believe there was even some houses of some terrorist leaders there. Now, just about the entire state of Iran, in my opinion, is a terrorist state. So all of the leaderships are terrorists there. I can't say so much for the general population of Iran, but I know that for the most part, the leadership is there, because they are either terrorists themselves or paid off by the terrorists, which makes them terrorists. But in response, in fact, I saw that that United States was evacuating a lot of people from the U.S. embassies in the area. Something's going to go down. You do not remove your people from the embassy without something going down. You just don't. Israel is our ally in the Middle East. And while I was campaigning, also, I'm still technically a candidate for U.S. Senate, but I want Ken Paxton to win, or I should better say that I want John Cornyn to lose. And I forgot where I was going with that. That's one thing about going live, and one thing that's been going on with me too is I've got to make sure that with all the medication I'm taking that I'm good. But either way, so the U.S. has allies over there, and one question that was brought up to me because I totally advocated to stop funding the Ukraine war. Totally, 100%. Let's stop funding it. Well, what about what's going on in Israel? Well, what's going on in Israel is multifold. You got the Palestinians that want to basically destroy Israel so they can have their quote unquote land back. Well, no, that wasn't their land to begin with. That was the promised land given to them by God. No other authority higher or greater. It was given to them. It's their land. Now you've got nuclear powered countries that are threatening Israel. The Bible says that Israel is going to become a burdensome stone, and those who heave it away will basically heave away the blessings of God. Well, yeah, there's a lot of countries that are in danger of doing that right now because they are siding with other countries. The United States is the only country right now that is still kind of keeping in good graces with Israel. But we've got to be careful. We've got to watch out for that because if we decide to not at any time, I believe that we as a country are just going to fall apart even more than we already are right now. We've got half of the country, well, I want to say less than half the country that's already revolting because they didn't like who won the presidency. Let me take my ball and go home is what it amounts to. So what we're going to do now is we're going to go to the next story. As soon as I find my mouse. So you can see the screen zooming in. That's how I look at the screen. And basically what I'm doing, for those of y'all who know anything about Mac, about iOS, Apple, I am essentially mirroring my screen. Now it's time for the audio portion of it.
A federal appeals court Thursday delayed an order requiring the Trump administration to return control of the California National Guard to Governor Gavin Newsom, dealing the administration a temporary reprieve to what would have been a major reversal of its policy on the protests in Los Angeles. Earlier Thursday, a federal judge in California issued a temporary restraining order that would have blocked Trump's deployment of California National Guard troops during protests over immigration raids in LA and returned control of the California National Guard to Governor Gavin Newsom, who did not consent to the Guard's activation. The order was set to take effect on noon Friday local time, but a panel of 3 judges on the Ninth Circuit Court of Appeals issued an administrative stay of the lower court's order and set a hearing for June 17th. 2 of the judges on the panel were nominated by President Donald Trump, and 1 was nominated by former President Joe Biden. In a Friday morning post to Truth Social, Trump praised the appeals court's decision, saying once again, "If I didn't send the military into Los Angeles, that city would be burning to the ground right now."
Gavin Newsom is trying to keep his state on fire. Am I the only one that sees that? Even with my one halfway good eye? I mean, his whole state is catching fire. No pun intended for the movie, but not that long ago, LA was burning, literally burning, because of the fires, because of water that they diverted from a little fish called a smelt. Because the smelts were more important than the people are. Now you've got millions of people that are there in California illegally that, according to Karen Bass, are the only ones that are worthy to do slave labor, basically. She came out and said, "Who's going to do our yards? Who's going to do our gardening and clean our pools?" I mean, come on. Are the American people not good enough, or too good, I should say? The regular American people too good to do those jobs? Really? I mean, immigrants get lower wages. Let me correct that. Illegal immigrants get lower wages by far. The Hormel plant, for example, when it was first started back in the 50s, they were paying their employees about $10 an hour back then, which by today's standards equals to about $35 worth of pay per hour. Great. Awesome. That is fanatical. Fantastic. Now they're paying their employees $18 an hour, and the majority of the people that work there are immigrants. Or what Karen Bass, I'm sorry. What Karen Bass would consider subpar citizens, subpar people. They're making $18 an hour now. Let that sink in. $18 an hour for a job that, by today's standard, used to pay $35 an hour. What kind of trash is that? But Gavin Newsom is trying to prevent help from going to his state, to protect his state, to protect his people. Man, California, y'all need to recall his ass already. He is doing your state damage. And I blame Ronald Reagan for that, the start of it. Had he not done the amnesty bill that he did back in '83, I don't think we would have had this problem. Because what that did was it made a lot of illegal immigrants essentially citizens. They still had their loyalties to the countries they came from before, whether it was Mexico, Guatemala, Venezuela, Ecuador, any one of those countries. So now, mostly it was Mexico. Now, those people that are still that beneficiaries of the amnesty bill, they have kids who are remaining loyal to their parents' country of choice, of origin, I should say, which, truthfully, by choice too, because they're here. I mean, if they don't like it so much, why did they come here? Why did they come here? But here's one thing that I will say. By and far, and CNN even put out a study on this. CNN confirmed that most immigrants don't want illegal immigration. Most immigrants side with Trump. I mean, what more proof do you need than that? I can say the proof that you need in that, one piece of evidence that you have in that is the fact that Donald Trump won the election, both by popular and electoral college vote. He ran on this concept. He ran on immigration. That was one of his biggest platforms. He ran on it and won. So that should tell you that most people want that to happen. They want it to happen. They voted for it to happen. And now that it's happening, the people out there are rioting in Los Angeles. Now, I'm going to say this. Those rioters, if they commit felonious acts, they need to be charged and tried. Now, also, think back. January 6th of a certain presidential election year. January 6th. 2021, I believe. There were how many people that were charged for felonies for walking around a building? Now, I understand. I'm not ignorant to the fact that there was some stuff that happened there that shouldn't have happened, that was a little violent. But it wasn't throwing bricks off of freeways violent. It wasn't setting stuff on fire violence. It wasn't keeping people from their jobs that provide for them and their kids violent. It wasn't any of that. It wasn't the necessity of using tear gas violence. It wasn't the necessity of using non-lethal force, and eventually it's going to come down to using lethal force. It wasn't that. People were walking around, sitting on a desk with their feet in the air, wearing a Viking hat. That dude's cool. But those people were charged. They were hunted down by their cell phone data for being on the lawn of the Capitol. On the lawn, not even inside. They were charged. They were arrested. Some were held without being charged in isolation for years before they were able to get out, or before they were basically forced into a plea deal because they couldn't afford to fight it. These people can no longer vote. They can no longer own weapons because they're now felons. Let's do that to these people too. They should all be felons, in my opinion. You know, what's good for the goose is good for the gander, right? But Andrew, let's make sure that they get pardoned too. Okay. Let's make sure they get pardoned. Hey, guess what? The next guy can do it. Because that's what happened with the J6ers is the next guy pardoned them. So let the next guy do it. And guess what? They are still felons. That just means that their sentence was pardoned, not the actual crime. They also lose their Fifth Amendment right. So, I mean, okay, let's pardon a few of them. Let's find the ones that had the masks, you know, the riot masks that were distributed. Let's find those. Let's charge them, convict them, pardon them. And then since they lose their Fifth Amendment right, if they accept the pardon, now they have to say where they got the funding for that, where they got the masks from. That's a good idea, isn't it? In the meantime, you got Governor Newsom that is trying to prevent Donald Trump from sending troops over there. Governor Abbott of Texas is doing the exact opposite. Governor Abbott of Texas is actually encouraging and has actually deployed the National Guard himself. Let me find that story. Here we go.
Sign up for The Brief, the Texas Tribune's daily newsletter that keeps readers up to speed on the most essential Texas news. Governor Greg Abbott announced Thursday morning he would deploy over 5,000 Texas National Guard troops across the state in anticipation of protests against federal deportation raids. Abbott initially confirmed the deployment Tuesday night and clarified the number of troops to be sent across the state on Thursday. Abbott said 2,000 additional Texas Department of Public Safety troopers would also be deployed. In a Tuesday social media post, Abbott wrote that the troop deployments were intended to ensure peace order at the protests. Peaceful protest is legal. Harming a person or property is illegal will lead to arrest, the governor wrote. He did not specify where the National Guard would be sent. The news comes amid demonstrations against immigration raids that started in Los Angeles last week and have spread across the country, including to Texas. On Monday evening, hundreds of protesters gathered in downtown Austin for a march that ended in the arrest of 13 people and police firing tear gas into a portion of the crowd that refused to leave. A protest on Wednesday in San Antonio was the first in Texas with the National Guard present. It went late into the night peacefully with no one taken into custody, according to the San Antonio Express News.
So Texas, how do I say this? FAFO. We've already got the National Guard. We didn't wait. You know, Governor Abbott of Texas is being proactive. And that is one thing that I've always preached. Be proactive. Don't wait for something to happen to you. You know, there's a saying that goes, life is 10% of what happens to you and 90% of how you react to it. Being proactive is a great way to not have to be succumbed to that other 10%. But we've got people in San Antonio. Now, here's the thing about what just happened in San Antonio. They're mostly peaceful. They're loud. You know, Mexicans, Chicanos, they were loud by nature. But they don't want to cause violence. San Antonio may be very Democrat, but we're not the quote unquote progressive liberals that are in California. San Antonio has Democrat mayor, Democrat councilmen in representation in the White House. I'm sorry, in the Capitol. But the people are mostly what are the blue dog Democrats. Now, granted, like anywhere else, there are the liberals out there. Austin is more liberal than San Antonio. And Austin is about 2.5 hours from me as well. Been there lots of time, been to San Antonio lots of time. I've worked there for my, when I was training dealerships, I worked there. But the point is, the difference between what's going on in Texas and what's going on in California. It's the whole mantra of don't California my Texas. Yes, there's Texans out there protesting as they have the right to do peacefully. They're loud. Okay, you cannot make a criminal charge out of something that is a constitutionally protected activity. They're loud. That's freedom of speech. They are not going out and burning crap up. They're not going out and flipping cars and throwing bricks from freeways and shooting tear gas back with the leaf blowers at the officers that sent it to them. No, they're not doing all that. They're just marching around and being loud. That's it. Another thing that Texas has going on, I mean, go take a drive to the border, see what you see there. I can't get into specifics, but yeah, there's some stuff going on there. Texas is being proactive, as we all should be. Another product that I want to talk to y'all before we wrap it up, these things. You've seen these on TikTok. I get them on Amazon. This is a PEC nasal inhaler. It's got two. We've all seen those sticks that you can put in your nose and smell them. They smell like a mentholatum. Similar concept, but you get two. And I don't drive anymore, but when I was, you could use these. And my goodness, if you find yourself dozing that off, a little bit tired, take a breath of this. Man, it'll open up your nasal passages. And then, maybe put one of these in your lip too, get you an extra caffeine shot. But find these, help support the show by clicking on the link and buying something from them, one of those two products. Hey guys, my name is Andrew Alvarez. I'm the Latino Conservative. Thank you for joining me. Thank you for letting me rant and rave at you. If you left a chat, I will get back to it. I can't see the chats right now just because of how the layout is. But again, I really do appreciate everybody joining on that will join on, and we'll see this later on in the future. Like, share, subscribe, do all that good stuff, and we'll see you next time.